Today I'm going to show you how easy and fun it is to turn your living room into a vibrant studio setup. We're going to create what I think is a pretty high-end looking ad campaign for a water bottle brand. So we're going to shoot this on the Arri Alexa Mini LF, large format. We're going to use the Canon Sumire primes. I'm going to go with an 85 millimeter. I tend to gravitate towards a 35, but because we're in my living room and the paper backdrops are not that wide, I think they're like 53 inches wide. We're gonna go with an 85 millimeter to compress everything and to fill the whole frame. I'm also gonna put a 1/4 bronze glimmer glass on there. That's my favorite diffusion filter. I think it's just enough in the highlights, just a hint in the highlights. We're only gonna see from the chest up to just below the eyes and then pretty wide on each side. I wanna see a big, super soft light source. I've got a super cheap 8x kit with, I don't know what level of diffusion is on this. We're gonna start by setting up the scrim. The first modification I'm going to make to this really, really big, beautiful soft light that we've got coming in here is I'm gonna black out the bottom half of it. Obviously, I have a beard here, but I want to create more of a shadow underneath the chin. I just have a sound blanket, a black sound blanket. I'm going to use the window, but the window isn't enough. I need to bump this up. We're going to lock in at ISO 400 on the LF, and then we're going to leave the aperture wide open on these prime lenses, so we'll be at 1, 2, I think. Pretty shallow. So because I'm open gate, the highest speed frames per second we can go is a 40th of a second. I want this to kind of be a little bit dreamy. I want them to sip and then smile, and I don't want it to be too high speed. I want these to flow pretty fast. I want to rack through different faces and water bottles and colors. So we're gonna need more light than this window with diffusion is gonna give us. So all I'm gonna do is bounce. I've got 2 Felix lights. These are, don't worry about the brand here. You can use any lights. I think it's about like an aperture equivalent to like a 300D. I'm just going to bounce off the ceiling. And then that bounce through the diffusion is going to give us, I think, pretty sure enough light. And it's nice and big and soft. Now, I don't want to lose a bunch of light. I don't want it to spread around the room. I don't want it to leak. So I'm going to contain it. What I have on hand is this really big 6x4 pop-up diffuser with a bounce on it. I've got a silver, I'm gonna use a really reflective silver bounce. Clamp that to a stand, contain that light. This is an oval pop-up diffuser. So I'm gonna use some foam core boards, white foam core boards, clamp them up there. I'm gonna try to contain more of this light that would leak out the edges, get all that I can out of it. Because I've got a bunch of kids that are gonna be in this ad, I don't really want kids playing back there behind the diffuser where the lights are. So I'm just gonna put up, I have another pop-up diffuser. I don't have a bounce zipped up on this. This is all dependent on taste. I want this to be a super simple, polished lighting setup. I want this big, broad, soft light to light the people's faces and the backdrop and make everything really clean. I want this clean, crisp aesthetic. So I don't want any light leaking in here from the other side. I have windows coming from the kitchen, the dining room area over there. It's kind of a natural next move for me as a cinematographer with my taste to neg everything else on the other side. I want this big, broad, beautiful, soft light coming from one side, and I want to neg everything else. I am going to use 1 floppy. I'm just going to tuck it in above my paper backdrop rig that I've devised. Then I'll let the other half of this dangle at a 90-degree angle. I'm going to sandwich one of these black foam core boards between the ceiling and the floppy and the diffuser. Spread that neg across the top, and then I'm going to clamp some more black foam core boards to this floppy and let them dangle. I had already shot everything by the time I did these comparisons to show on camera for YouTube. And there's something about that light leaking in on the other side that I like. I could have left it that way, but I think for the clean and polished commercial aesthetic that we had designed and intended for, I am glad that we negged this whole side and blocked all that out. This whole backdrop system is made up of parts that I have. I have a small array of grip equipment, 2 C-stands with 2 arms sticking out. Really sandbagged these down so they're not going to go anywhere. On each C-stand boom arm, I've got a clamp with a stud. And then I'm able to put the paper backdrop roll up in there and clamp those down those studs are long enough that even if these wiggle a little bit, they're not going to let go. To make sure that the C-stand arms, the boom arms, don't rotate away from each other and drop the paper, because these studs don't connect, I did put another set of clamps with some little extension arms to at least lock those distances, the boom arm distances, together. One on the outside, one on the inside. The one thing that would have made this I think awesome from a budget perspective, from a creative perspective, from a gear perspective, is if we had either a dolly or a robot. If we had a dolly, I don't know what kind of dolly, but something that raises and lowers. From a camera movement perspective, I would have liked to follow the water bottle up. We had people start here and go up and take a sip, and I would have liked to have that motion be really consistent every time. A robot would have been dope. We don't have any like Mias or Curas or whatever. We don't have any camera robots in my hometown. The closest robots are in Portland. Theoretically, you could do that with a tripod, just angle like this. But I like the idea of following it up, following that water bottle vertically instead of tilting. So what we ended up doing was using the Easy Rig and following the water bottle up handheld, keeping everything handheld. And I think in the end, the look creatively is going to be a little more organic. We are kind of forcing our hand there. So what I chose to do was get variations of distances. I got either really close to the water bottle or really far away, show a little more, show a little less, make it a little more ambiguous. And then because it's handheld, because we're following it up handheld and we've got this little bit of a jitter, we're going to lean in on that organic nature of the handheld, the movement, the kind of a little bit sloppy, allowing it to wiggle a little bit, I think might work out in our favor creatively in the edit, because it's kind of an ambiguous, colorful backdrop world. We're in the void. But that's the taste of the director, I think. The only other issue of taste that could change in here is you could make some adjustments because of the angle of our big broad light, and because of the nag, you're going to get this gradient across that paper backdrop. So there is going to be a light side and a dark side of the color behind the person. But it's more tweaking with maybe some bounce, maybe removing the nag. I don't know, moving the nag around. You can even out that backdrop. But there is something to be said about the aesthetic of leaving it that way, the natural occurrence of that, and then a little bit of vignette even on these still photographs. You can see there's a little bit of vignette, and it feels like a Target or a Gap ad campaign, or maybe Old Navy ad campaign. There's something to be said about leaving those little organic details in there. It feels right. So I don't know. There's part of me trying to think about how to end this video. There's part of me that wants to invite people to comment and tell me what you think of this, but I frankly don't care what you think. The client is happy. I'm happy. Director's happy. So what do I care? There's a couple other topics I think I could go into in this. I'm not just camera department. I'm also a producer. There's two of us at the production company that did all of the talent scouting. We storyboarded this, came up with a theme and colors and the nuance and reasoning for these colors and the kinds of people that they wanted to see, the range of skin tone and gender and age. There's a whole story that's being told here that was when you get into scheduling all these people, finding location, tracking down all of the gear that we're going to need to use, the people involved. We did all that as a producer. There's other things that I'm doing here. We did stills and video here. There's a lot of different topics you could go into here. I don't know, maybe I'll go into that. Stick around. But I don't really post that often. I want this to be fun, so a video every other month, every couple of months, who knows? There's my microphone right there. What do you think? Whoops, nipples. What do you think of my microphone? That's a crazy tape job. Holy crap.